So this is where your research comes in.
It's on.
Black down there, I was trying to find this word, I couldn't find it, that word was like...
And that's why you need the prompts. Do you know what I mean?
I was looking for that word, and then it just wouldn't come.
But no, the first thing you know, what you need to stop.
No,
You know
you know
what
what
I
I
mean?
mean.
See, if you're using prompts, he hadn't got enough prompts. That's it.
Independent, Chris.
He should have went. He should
I had
have
that word in
read
my head, and I was trying to find the English word. And I was
Searching
searching in my head, and I was like...
But as headings, not as sentences and not as paragraphs.
Just as heading and talk about it.
Prompts. Because if you have prompts, you won't be able to. You will have to talk out loud. You have to do it out loud once or twice at home. You know, just Now, do you want to run through the first two, Andrew, or do you just want to get stuck in?
No.
Okay, here we go. You know yourself, you know what you have to do, just take your time and enjoy, well, you won't enjoy it, but do a good job. Here we go.
Hello and welcome. My name is Drew Masterson. I'm Class 5411 and I'm here today to talk to you about a new intellectual property in the gaming franchise. As part of my presentation today, I'll talk about current trends in online usage, reasons for that growth, possible directions for the industry, the new IP itself, a little bit about the game, and my conclusions. Using NPD statistical figures now and projected, we can see that online gaming growth in the hardcore gamer industry has swelled amazingly in the last 10 years. It is unbelievable the amount of things that people are doing online now with their consoles as opposed to just having to use PCs. The reasons for these growing areas are peer-to-peer gaming with friends, being able to play with somebody around the corner or in another country. Availability of patches and updates. A game is no longer broken in the box. It can be patched, be updated, be fixed. Episodic content. When you finish the game, you can download extra levels. You can get the game going for longer, particularly if you like it an awful lot. HD movies and full game downloads is a new one added to the console market. On-demand streaming movies and whole full game downloads will now be available on most systems. Breaking down hardcore gamer usage, you can see that people still use most of the time for social networking and browsing, even on these systems because they have browsers enabled. What we need to do in the gaming industry is trying to tap into that market. As you can see, next to that we have peer-to-peer gaming, which is 30% of their usage. That still leaves more in social networking for games that is being used online. I'm introducing a new title today that will allow us to mix social networking and use people who are used to and comfortable with that into the gaming franchise. And it's going to be called World. Games features. Forget predefined roles. You don't assume a character. You're not somebody who's already been made for you by somebody else. You can be who you are, or anybody you want to be, or yourself, which is the most important thing. Play the way you want and the style you want. You could play it as a first-person shooter, you could play it as a puzzle game, you could play it as a role-playing game. Any kind of style you like to play, you can play this game with the same character during different times. So if you get sick of the first-person shooter, jump onto a role-playing game, play it as the same character, or then fall back. Social networking style connectivity, as I spoke earlier, this is the most important part of it really. There could be a 2D element to this game. People seem to be very comfortable in their browsers. So you could have just a text-based version of the game where people could use their own characters and avatars. Your own personal identification and your network information from Facebook could be imported into the game. You feel a real sense of connection to the world. This is because this game will be modelled on real world events. Using GPS maps, you could be walking around Finglas in this game, doing anything you want in an almost GTA style. The retail models for this game will be different. There will be a free ad-support initial version of the game, but there'll also be a €30 version with exclusive content that will be ad-free. Both versions will give you 30 days free trial with a monthly subscription of £9.99, which is competitive with most online games today. The main retail sections of this game will be purchasing content inside the store. People love buying extra stuff for their characters, new weapons, new upgrades, and that can all be made available through credit card transactions within the game. In conclusion, I think the gaming industry today is using an awful lot of online connectivity, but it's using barely 10, maybe 15% of what it's capable of. It's a massive, massive industry. Everybody wants to stay online, be connected with friends, and enjoy a gaming experience while at the same time. And I think really the social networking aspect of this game could make it phenomenally popular and not very expensive as well to maintain. Considering current development costs, this game could have multiple users in different areas, not just being limited to people who only like role-playing games. You'll have people who are like shooters, which is amazingly popular, and they'll be given a subscription as well as people who like sim games, people who like sports games, car games, that kind of stuff. So the users on this will be huge, which will drive the development costs down. Any questions?
When was the game set for release?
Well, this game, as most massively multiplayer online games, will need a lot of development time. You need to get a beta test users, a group of users together that will need to hammer out a code specifically that they would know and then test for bugs. And in an environment such as a MMORPG or a massively multiplayer online game, you'll have almost infinite connections and infinite variables. So there's an extensive amount of testing that needs to go on. I would say that the development scale on this game could be anything between maybe 3 to 5 years, depending on the team that was put in to develop it in the first place. Any other questions?
So it's going to work in all platforms like PS3, Xbox, computers, and.
Very good question. At the moment now, with the current hardware, it would seem to be that the PlayStation 3, the PC, or a modern PC, and an Xbox would be able to handle this game. Other consoles, maybe like the Wii, may not have the graphical power to run the game because it's going to have everything from first-person shooter, which is very graphically intensive, to role-playing games, which is heavily online networked. Also, the Wii introduces difficult hurdles such as the interface. It's not traditional keyboard or joypad, so that would have to be extra development time. It's not that it would be impossible, just I'd say that would take extra development time. That's where the game could be ported between those 3 different systems very easily during the single development process. Any other questions?
What kind of social impact do you have a game when you say you can buy and you can walk and everybody can meet your friends in online in that game? And when you say you can buy a weapon, what purpose is that? You can kill your friend, or what is the impact of that?
Very good question. Games are an escape, just as movies, music, anything else. And I'd like to think that people of today who have been playing games for most of their lives can distinguish the difference between real life and imaginary life. And how realistic the game will be, we're not gods. We can't really create the real world. You're still going to be looking at it through a screen with a keyboard. And I think people will realise that that's not real life. So if you get a gun and you're shooting your friends, you're not really shooting your friends. Any other questions?
If the new consoles come out, will there be refreshable?
The great thing about this game is that because it will be persistently online, patches and updates could be made available to download directly. Instead of them having to be new iterations of the game, you'll simply just download the latest version and it'll constantly be patched and upgraded. As new hardware becomes developed, new graphical engines might be employed for different parts of the game, such as the first-person shooters, such as the sim games or sports games. So it's a longevity-based game. It will all be about keeping the person's subscription going, and that will have to cycle with the hardware market, because people like games that look good. Any other questions?
When you're playing that, would you be able to interact with people with different systems? If you have a 360, would you be able to?
Excellent question, and yes, they will, because this will all be networked over single servers. Now, the only hurdle that is here is that the different companies, such as Microsoft and Sony, may not want a single platform running on their platforms because they're in competition. But I would argue that the amount of users that would be possible or made by this, it won't matter what version of the system you have, it'll be the same experience. So you'll still be paying your subscription-based content to either Microsoft or Sony, and then that will trickle down to the people who are creating the game. And I think they'll like getting some money from somebody else doing all the work. Any other questions?
Sound good? Well done, Andrew. That was super. There you go, boys. The bar has been set.
When I can buy that?
Was anybody else ready to have a bash?
Jack. Do you want to